Hey Joe, thanks for getting this in. Um, so it looks like you were in a really small room. So first off, I want to point out that it would have been very, very helpful to use a short focal length lens. It doesn't look like you were. I don't have any information here on that in your write-up or in your contact sheets, but a short focal length lens would have made this job a lot easier for you because I can tell that you're really struggling to frame this tiny space with this either natural focal length lens or long that you're using. I'm not sure. It looks like it's probably a natural, somewhere between 35 and 50. But it was a struggle for you, wasn't it? um, so the other thing that I saw when I was looking through here is I do think, based on, my assumption is that this is an image without your lights here, and then down here we have here's your equipment shot, and then down here we have a shift to you using your lights. And I do want to point out that I think that you did actually a pretty good job lighting the top end of this bookshelf that was otherwise almost entirely in shadow from the available light. I do. I mean, the lighting here and all these bookshelf shots rather is quite it's quite even. So that's great. I think where the images fall short really is in composition. You have very awkward compositional elements in all of them. And I mean, I understand it's difficult when you don't have the right lens for a tiny space. It's difficult to do a good job because, the lens that you're using, it looks like it's compressing space a little bit. So it's probably either normal to long. And if you used something like a short focal length lens that could expand space, you could have gotten this printer out of the way, and you could have gotten this out of the way too. They're just, lens optics are magic. So just remember, as a photographer, there's a lot of things to consider when you're setting up a shoot. And focal length lens is huge because remember, the short focal length lenses expand space and the long ones compress it. And so, by changing the focal length lens, you can actually get things out of your scene that you wouldn't be able to get out with a different focal length lens. But, so in this case, that's what you could have done with a shorter focal length lens. And then it looks like also there's some architectural problems, like these bookshelves are just crooked. And I don't think it's because you shot them crooked. I think they literally are crooked on the wall. They're like sagging and, So this is a problem. A lot of problems to solve here. And again, here, compositionally, this is just a big no-no. Having something so big right in the foreground, out of focus, just a big no-no. A client would never, never accept that. This is probably your best composition, but we still have this very strange tank of a printer right there that's sort of cut off at the bottom. The only reason I know that's a printer is because I have a similar model sitting right next to me right now. And yeah, it's tough. And then there's this kind of rather unattractive ceiling up here. A tighter crop would have been better, but that's what you were trying up here, and it just really wasn't working either. This was a struggle. It's difficult to find a room that you could work on. I swear I almost think that you'd have had better luck shooting the desk and the window and then maybe this bookcase over here. I think that you might have had an easier time. And I can see that you moved a lot of things out of the way, unless it's just that packed of a space. You must have, because that would seem like a pretty big fire hazard to have all those things in front of that door all the time. But anyways, I do want to say that the positioning of your lights works for this situation. When we go to your final images, your choices that are probably using your lights, we're only seeing problematic shadows, just the very edges of them, these things right here. And frankly, to do this job really right, typically people would use diffusers on their lights. They wouldn't use a hard light like this. They would use a soft light. They'd put something in front of their light, a softbox, or shoot through an umbrella, or even shoot directly through just a white nylon bounce or scrim. And then you could have softened these shadows, because right now you're shooting with a very hard light, and I think that that's a technical trip-up. You're doing a good job illuminating the parts of the room that are dark. However, the quality of the light seems to be a technical mistake to me. The amount of light and the position of the light is correct, but the quality, I think, is aesthetically problematic. Let me know what you think about that assessment. That's my take on it. Anyways, thank you again for getting this in so early, and all of the really detailed equipment shots are very helpful because I feel like then I can give you much, much more thorough feedback. Yeah, I mean, if you were shooting through a reflector or bounce right here on either one of these or both of these lights, you wouldn't see these hard-edged, strange shadows up at the ceiling. They would be quite gradiated and barely noticeable. I hope that makes sense. Thanks again for getting this in, and you know, congratulations on putting the task in front of yourself of shooting such a tiny space. It's really very ambitious to do, actually. It's a lot easier to correct lighting problems in much bigger spaces. Not, you know, there's a point when they're too big and you no longer have tools that can manage that size of a job, but tiny spaces like this are very, very challenging. Okay, thanks, Joe.